chapter of One Piece, chapter 1086, is out now, and this chapter is titled or called The Five Elder Stars, Moons, Planets. It seems like we're finally getting some concrete information on the five old heads that have been running or at the top of the world. But the chapter actually begins with the end and the fallout of the reverie itself, as now that it has concluded, the people of Alabasta are looking for their king and princess as they have gone missing. And it turns out Vivian and Wappo have stowed away on another kingdom ship trying to hide and get out of here. And Wappo's messaging Morgan is trying to get him to come pick him up. And Morgan's like, oh yeah, bet, tell me where you're at. I'll come to you and come pick you up immediately. News like this is something I can't ignore. And then Vivi's like, oh, you done talking? Give me this now. I want to call my dad. He's a bit of a word war. And Wappo like, nope, you ain't getting this. Go find your own. He ain't trying to have her call her dad at all. But at this point in time, people are still searching for both Vivi and Sabo, as they're still wanted. And Sabo is hiding out in the Lulusia ship, bleeding out after what he went through on Mary Joie. And he starts reminiscing and remembering King Cobra's last words to him for him to live on and pass a certain message on to Luffy and Vivi. But now at this point, with the reverie fully over and all the kingdoms heading back to their homelands, the news of what happened after King Cobra and the disappearance of Vivi spread like wildfire. Now the whole world basically knows about it. And back on the Holy Land on Mary Joie, the five elders are in the room talking about Sabo, how this man has a checkered fate, and how it's ironic and weird he keeps running across all these different deeds. But also at this time, Emu reaches out to them and says the time has come to put Vegapunk's invention to the test. It is time to use the Mother Flame. And the Gorosei are like, the Mother Flame? We have been looking for a way to test its effectiveness and haven't had any opportunities as of yet. Where are we going to use it at? Some sort of giant forest off somewhere? And then Emu-san says, Lulusia Kingdom. And then they're like, there's a lot of people on that kingdom. But Emu-san is like, and? He gives no F's about human life. But they're like, well, of course, the world moves at your will, but why Lulusia of all places? And as cold as this man says, oh, it's just close by. Proximity, only reason. And at this point, we actually get the actual titles and full descriptions of the five elders. We see the defense science warrior god, Saint J. Garcia Saturn, the environmental warrior god, Saint Marcus Mars, the justice warrior god, Saint Topman Valkyrie, the finance warrior god, Saint Ethan Baron V. Nurjuro, and lastly, the agriculture warrior god, Saint Shepherd Jew Peter. Basically, the White House if they had warrior god in all of their titles. It goes on with Emu saying one more thing. Retrieve Princess Vivi. Her ass ain't going nowhere. But at this point, with the reverie coming to a close and all the kingdoms, as we know, starting to revolt and go against their kings and queens at this point in time, without the seven warlords, the government sends out the Seraphim. And we see some new Seraphim, Baby Doflamingo, a skinny Gecko Moria, and a pretty fire-looking crocodile. And at this point in his story, Sabo explains that this is when he docked on Lulusia, and the people there immediately captured the king and princess as soon as they docked. And when they saw Sabo, news of what he did to Cobra had already spread here, and so they worshipped him and took him in as a hero. And as he saw all their hopefulness, all the flames and sparks of rebellion churning in them, he couldn't help but not say anything and take away all this enthusiasm and energy they had. But before he left, he knew he had to reach out to Dragon. So while he was on his ship with the people from Lulusia heading here, he redirected his transmission to the Lulusia item as a means of encrypting it to make them think that he was still on the island. And Iwasan points out, oh, so that's probably when they attacked and when we heard or found out that it got annihilated. And Sabo like, yep, everyone on the ship with me saw as their loved ones got destroyed, which took them all pretty hard. And as Dragon's saying how despicable this is for the world government to just wipe out all these lives, Sabo points out that there was an enormous shadow that flew over them right before it happened, and then the island was just gone. Poof. and that there was no way this could have been something done by any living creature or some sort of natural disaster. It was something flying over them that wiped them out. And even when someone says, Sabo, you brought up a name earlier, Emu. Now this may be a coincidence, but there was someone from 800 years ago, one of the original 20, whose name was Saint Emu of House Nerona. And he threw Sabo a paper and said, we know about a devil fruit that can give the immortality surgery, give eternal youth to someone. So someone had to have had this done in order for us to even know this. So that means someone has to be walking around the world without any fear of death, right? And Sabo's like, oh, so you think this someone is Emu? And even so goes on to say, there's no real way to say for certain, but considering the 5 elders were kneeling to him, who else would the 5 top people of the world kneel to other than one of the original celestial dragons? And he says one more thing. If this was an invention made by the world government, only one man could have made this. Vegapunk. And Dragon Point cuts him off immediately saying, we know Vegapunk. He wouldn't make something to actually take human lives. I mean, he turned guns into flower guns. He's not that kind of person. But then even when someone said, well, if it wasn't him, then maybe it was an ancient weapon. I mean, think about it. If Emu had been living for all this time, he would have one from back then. And then Dragon is considering it, he says that Robin did tell him the ancient weapons did exist. If they have had one all this time, why wait till now to use it? And we cut to the final page of the chapter where we see and find out that Celestial Dragon had been put to death on Mary Joie. And it turns out that the judge that sentenced the Celestial Dragon to death was the former king of the God Valley and currently the commander of the God Knights, Saint Figurlin Garland. And of course, the person that's being sentenced to death is Saint Don Quixote Mosgar, the only somewhat good celestial dragon. And this man Garland's words to him, anyone who protects scum is lower than the scum they protect. Yo, those are some savage words, but I'm pretty sure Kakashi Hatake have a different opinion when it comes to that. And with this, One Piece is now going on a 4 to 5 week break, which sucks. I don't know how I'm going to get through without my weekly One Piece. But if there's one thing I know for certain, when it comes to One Piece, Ichiro Oda is like Sanji in the kitchen. You gotta let that man cook.